All right, well, let's set the scene. So we're, what's this park called?
It's called the Grange Park.
I always think of this. Do you remember that Simpsons where they're painting the orphanage a beautiful sky blue, and it's a joke about how few colors there are in the Simpsons palette, that it is the identical color to the sky, and then a helicopter flies into it? But that's what this building looks like. It's pretty much the same blue as the sky.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
So if the sound of a helicopter crashing into a building happens partway through,
you know what happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we have a nice friendly park DJ who's making everyone else's life better and annoying me personally, but I think it seems fine. Our sound quality sounds good to me.
That's good. It's better than Cars. Yeah.
So I was very pleased to hear that you have played Sleeping Dogs.
I have played Sleeping Dogs. It stands alone as the single open world Grand Theft Auto type game I have ever completed.
Yeah, those things are tough to beat, like just to slog through them. It's like, fuck it.
Usually sometime around 2/3 of the way through, like I played Vice City and I played San Andreas, and
Yeah, I never finished San Andreas.
I got to, like I said, I got to David Cross's missions with the remote control stuff, and I was like, what is this bullshit? And I hate everything, and
that really is when they could have stood to be a little more lenient with how many missions you actually need to do to progress. Because I think with Grand Theft Auto games, you kind of have to do them all eventually, and it shouldn't be that way. There should be just 30% of them you just never have to do, and that's fine. Especially those ones. Like, they're so weird.
Oh. Yeah, and they're so unusual. Like, they're not like anything else that you do. They might be like something you do later. Like flying the remote plane might be like, I hear you can fly a normal plane.
You know what, though? The weirdest example of that is that I forgot about till I heard about it on a podcast. The first driver game where before you can play any missions, you are required by video game driver law to do a parking lot segment where you prove that you can do U-turns and all kinds of difficult maneuvers that you may never actually need to do in the game ever. And it was so hard. I remember it took me forever to get past it, that this dude who used to work at a game store on Sim Podcast, he said people would come in and just be like, could you just get past that for me? I brought my memory card. Just get past that for me, and that's part of his job for like 3 weeks, was to do that for his customers. So I mean, that's ridiculous. Just let people skip shit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, definitely. And I really liked a lot of things about Sleeping Dogs. A lot, right? Like it was easy. I liked that. I liked that aspect.
That's one of those things about open world games, that I do like, is like that they don't have difficulty settings, and they're just generally not that difficult. Like, that's not the point of them.
Yeah, I mean, even I was kind of dreading the gunplay, right? Because that's what would always do me in Grand Theft Auto games. It's like as soon as I had to, as soon as I have to aim with a trigger or with a controller or something, it's like, no, right?
I was actually kind of thinking, like, I wonder if anything will trip up Brad when he's playing this, and I was thinking it might be some of the combat, because there are points when you're not quite comfortable with it, or when I wasn't quite in the groove yet, and I got my ass beat pretty.
Oh yeah, well, the first one where you have to beat Ming, it took me like
where you gotta do all the
9 tries, right? It must have taken me 9 tries, maybe 20. I don't know, right? To beat Ming with like that first guy who's got the knife that you can't just like grab initially. And if I had known, I don't know if it's the case all the way through the game, but if I had known that when you were all like faced up, I guess, when you're glowing yellow and that, when your meter is glowing. If I had known that when your meter is glowing, you could just grab people with knives, and disarm them, I discovered that, like, in my third to last fight in the game.
I forgot that was even a thing. Yeah, like, I did notice when I managed to get my hands on one of the DLCs. It was just 20 random cop missions, and I was amazed how much I had lost in the fighting. Like, I couldn't remember how to do anything.
Yeah.
It's once you know it, it's not that complicated, but when you forget it, it's like, fuck.
Yeah, I found it very intuitive, right? Although, like I say, there were things that I didn't know that, were just made things harder, right? Like I say, I didn't know that, I can actually be more, I knew that people were scared of me when I was glowing yellow, but I didn't know the exact extent to which I could kick extra ass, during that period. So I would actually just use it to run away and restore my life as best I could.
Yeah,
right?
you do get life back.
Yeah,
right,
you
when it
do,
comes
right?
up, and
That's what I valued it for. I was like, good, finally I slammed some guy in the ground. But man, I loved breaking people's limbs. God,
I love how they freak out. Like,
yes,
they
it's
back
so
up.
yeah. I mean, sure, you can break a guy's arm 3 times, right? But what I do like is that he chooses different arms each, at least the first 2 times, right? Which is great.
I do remember, though, it's coming back to me now with that face thing. I remember I looked that up. Maybe that's how I knew what it did, because I looked it up because I didn't even know what that meant. And I guess they just mean face in
face as in
a wrestling sort of term?
No, it's the idea of
notoriety?
No, it's like losing face, right, is the term. It's like an Asian term, or it's the English translation of an Asian term, which face is just your, your respect, your self-respect, your dignity, it's kind of, it's like your self-respect and your dignity all wrapped into one, right?
See, I guess when it's divorced from the full term losing face or gaining face, it's not a good term. It doesn't fucking make sense, because I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up, and I think that's how I knew what it did. But
yeah.
But that's why whenever a game has, during loading screens or something, tips, even if you've seen the same little tip over and over, I never want to turn them off, because what if there's a thing like that I go through the whole game?
Yeah, it's like,
or
by the way,
This one example always sticks with me is I didn't even like Half-Life 2, but I remember this one dude, he said he loved Half-Life 2 in some podcast. I can't think of his name, but he played through it 3 times before he knew that if you duck and throw a grenade, you'll roll it rather than toss it. And there's one boss where you have to roll grenades into little holes, and he was painstakingly lobbing them when he was just supposed to roll them.
Yeah, I've done that sort of thing. I can't remember too many specific instances, but I've done shit like that where it's like,
it's like fucking Bioshock Infinite. I got all the way through it, and I didn't know you could do special melee kills. How did I get through the whole game and not know that?
I knew that because people were talking about it,
And I love melee. I melee like a madman, but I guess I just never noticed.
I think one of the things that really, initially attracted me to Sleeping Dogs, once I started playing, was that I was like, sweet, the fighting is kind of like an evolution of River City Ransom, and I was really into that, right? I was like, and then when I got the first upgrade and I saw oh, hey, cool, I will be able to do, I was like, will I be able to do cool new moves? Of course I will, right? But how will I do this? I will do this by gaining levels, and I'm like, I am okay with that, and I was, right? I didn't end up gaining every level in everything. Certainly not in the cop things. I'm a much too terrible driver.
Yeah, I think I didn't max out cop either.
No, I think I got to level 7 or something in cop.
And it's all just a bunch of shit you don't need anyway. Just weird, when you jump out of a car, you can fire in midair. When am I ever going to do that? I'll wait till I crash into the pavement and stand up, and then if I happen to have a gun, which I won't, it's just a dumb skill.
Although sometimes I did use that vaulting slow motion aiming. That was fun, right?
Well, that's where I respect Sleeping Dogs so much, is that they want you to have fun.
They do.
Because
they do, and it's so hard to stop playing. That's something I learned,
Well, that in particular is because 2 of the worst things about Grand Theft Auto is probably the number 1 worst thing is when you're driving and trying to shoot from your car is just a nightmare of trying to steer and shoot and aim. So in Sleeping Dogs, as you're shooting at tires, it goes into slow-mo for you. Because why not? Because it's fun. And I also hate the gunplay in Grand Theft Auto in general is terrible.
It's terrible. It's very bad.
And any of these hiding behind cover-based shooter games
usually are awful.
They're really bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they did this in Sleeping Dogs, is not only because it's fun to vault over, but if you vault over and fire, you get the slow-mo, so it encourages you not to turtle. It encourages you to pretend you're in a John Woo movie.
Yeah, I turtled a lot. I was actually tempted to put a dot with a dry erase marker on my screen where the crosshair, where the dead center would be. I was tempted to do that, and I bet if I ever played it again, I would totally do that and just be headshotting like a motherfucker all the time.
That's not a bad idea. Really.
It actually is it's a really good idea, but I was I'm so close. I didn't come up with the idea until I was right near the end of the game, right? And I was like, oh, I could do this, but I had just enough pride and dignity and self-respect. I had just enough face at that moment, to that I really felt, okay, I'm just gonna do this without cheating in that particular manner, right? But if there was ever a next time, which there won't be, because life is short. But
Did you get any of the DLC with it or anything?
I might have.
I know, like when you download it now on PSN, you get it all with it. It's just there.
Like there are 2 extra packages that I don't know. I don't know whether I have them or not, right?
And from what I heard, none of them are that great. They're just like a 3 more hours between 3 DLCs of just some extra shit. But I'd like to play them someday, but I can't on my.
I mean, if they, the thing is, if they added like an extra move or something, then I might be interested, right? Because I went and I searched around for all the Jade statues, but where you get the extra move points and stuff, and I like that system, right? I like that system.
One small thing though that did annoy me is whenever you got a new move, you had to test it in the dojo, and it just took a little too long. And I was like, I'll just do this on some criminals. Stop making me do this, and you couldn't skip it. Small gripe, but it was bugging me by the end.
Yeah, I liked testing it in the dojo because that forced me to actually learn how to do it.
Right. I guess they just like once I did it, it's like I did it, but they.
Oh yeah. For me, I need like 5 or 6 attempts to be very confident. So I didn't mind that at all. I would have liked, I wouldn't have wanted more. Like so, for me, they had it at just the right level, right, of required practice. And then of course, when they say defeat the students, you can just use whatever shit,
Right.
Yeah. And although they get harder and harder as you get more moves, though.
Specifically, I guess it was defeating the students. That was it's like I'm done here. But small gripe. But yeah, that's the thing with that game is
it's real fun breaking the students' arms and legs. The sandbox game, you're gonna break all kinds of metaphors in it, right? Yeah.
Your teacher's kind of okay with it. He's just like, he is the best. Should be proud that you got your arm broken by this man. But yeah, the thing with that game,
ancestors are calling. They are very disappointed in you.
And that's the thing with that game too. Like whatever its mixture was, like it was more like Grand Theft Auto than I ever expected it to be. Like people just say sandbox game. To me, that just means big open world, but apparently that means Grand Theft Auto identical clone, because it really was. But it got its little mixture so good.
Oh yeah, no,
it not only did I stay up for 3 days playing it and barely slept, but it was what single-handedly got me over the hump of, for 2 years I've been humming and hawing about a video game podcast, and I was like, I can't hold it back no more. Like, if I don't talk about this game to no one, because no one else has played it, I'm gonna go crazy.
Yeah, no, it's a very good game. I mean, it has all the problems that an open world game has, in the sense that, it's like, yes, you can free run. No, it's not perfect, right? But, only in like Uncharted or something where it's a straight line, can you really expect that sort of thing to be perfect, right?
And I still like how they've given it enough of the sort of parkour, vaulting over stuff feel that I did feel less constrained than in a normal Grand Theft Auto.
It had a great mix between, like combat and free running and driving and gunplay. Right, like it was, like I did.
The gunplay was like 1/5 of it, like almost none.
Yes, the gunplay was like almost none. Yeah, but like they were all fun, right? Like I was like, that's good, and it's like, and I did get quite into the story. I liked the story as well, right? I mean,
that was another shock. That was one thing that was backward with Grand Theft Auto, is I would do the story a little bit begrudgingly and mostly just want to drive around. Whereas I was into the story enough with Sleeping Dogs that once I ran out of story missions, I still spent 2 more hours driving around because I just didn't want to stop playing, but I couldn't. I was like, but without the story, what am I doing? And that's weird because in Grand Theft Auto it wouldn't matter, but the story was important enough.
Yeah, no, the story was very well integrated. I think there are several great moments in that story, right? I mean, they're all kind of like Hong Kong action movie cliches, but when you're the one doing them, it's very cool, right? It's like I am Winston now is like one of the greatest lines ever, It's like, and
I do remember like by the end it started to get a little fuzzy. When I think back, I'm like, let me see, Big Smile Lee. I guess I hit him with a fish. I don't remember really. Like I hit a point where by the end I'm like, I don't know, and it doesn't matter anymore. But there were a lot of points in there, like the wedding, and then you got to fight your way out of the wedding.
Yeah, the wedding was the thing, right? Like the wedding was the point where I was like, that was like the first point where I was like, shit, I'm going to keep playing this, aren't I? Like for until because I'm like, I would have laughed my ass off and sent them an extra $50 if nothing had happened at the wedding, right? You know, like if the wedding had just gone off without a hitch, I would have sent them an extra $50, you know.
That's one thing I find weird too about that story. It's like it's not unique or it's not unexpected. Everything is by the numbers, but
the numbers are good, right? The
if you
numbers are really good in this. Like I'm not excited for Sleeping Dogs 2. Should they, you know, like I'll wait for someone else to vet that one, right? I managed to beat Sleeping Dogs in 36 hours, which I think is about right, like for, you know, the amount of time I want to play a game, you know.
I can't remember how long it took.
That means it cost me 80 cents an hour to play, which is pretty good, you know. Like that's a good value.
Well, I was even thinking right from the get-go, like I only downloaded that game for no real reason, just that I'd kind of heard good things and I had nothing to do and no one was around, so you know, my apartment was empty. So I downloaded it and I drank a bunch of coffee and turned it on, and right from the get-go, like all the dudes are like unrealistically muscular and all the chicks are super hot, and it's just got that kind of populist silliness, but I liked it.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's the thing. It's a very, you know, it's a very likable game, you know.
And there's even some stuff like, do you remember the mission? There's one mission where you're basically just showing around this cool music producer, and you just take them to the club.
Fun one. Yeah. I like that. Like that's I just had fun doing their bullshit, right?
You know, like they're really just trying to make me seem cool. Like I'm living the life of a cool dude, and I was like, I love it. I do feel like a cool dude.
Yeah, like I really, exactly. You know, I mean, you know, the one thing that doesn't resonate with me is that I have no, you know, I could never be a gang member because I don't have that sense of loyalty, right?
I guess I started feeling it a little, just that like around the funeral, you're yelling at the cops, and even though you are a cop, you're like, you fucking pigs, how can you do this at the funeral?
Oh yeah, I was in there. Like I played the game from the funeral to the end, right? Like, you know, and that was like in one night, right? Like that was nuts, but I did it, right? Because it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just I was like, you know, I did get very invested in the, you know, in the storyline, and I think I got invested in it almost largely because it was just on rails, right? Like if there had been any choices I could have made, what would I have done? You know, I'd be Big Smile Lee right now, probably, right? You know.
Yeah, I was surprised too that they pulled off the cop double-sided thing, because the people would always talk about that with Grand Theft Auto. Like the original Grand Theft Auto 1 idea was cops and robbers, and they were like, how can we do cops? It doesn't make any sense, but they did it.
They managed it. Yeah. No, it's an evolution of a lot of things, right?
And I think a big part of it is that it was so hand-to-hand based, and like you can go a long time without killing anybody, you know, if you wanted to.
I like to think I kill everyone I touch, because that's what happens when you're in cop, when it's trying to deduct cop points from you. It's like innocent killed, and I was like, yeah, you know. I looked, and apparently there's no statistic keeping track of that, right? Like if there were, it would be hilarious at the end. It's like, you know, it should just, you know, at the end of your triumphant thing, it should just list innocents killed. It would be like 800, you know, in my thing, you know, and almost all accidentally, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I was thinking even just with the hand-to-hand combat.
Oh shit!
Oh, we got birds right above us. We move.
Well, I mean, it's only gonna shit the once, right?
You sure? I guess we'll find out.
Oh shit! I see them. Okay, yeah, we have pigeons directly over me.
Right.
When I thought they were over you, I wasn't so concerned.
We got lucky there.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm just gonna stop this, and then we'll find a new spot.
And no one knows a different way, because it's been a while. Let's go through the tile.
Yeah, I was thinking because I was playing sort of, I don't know why, for whatever reason, I just was playing not especially cautiously. I'm sure I did run over some people, but But I remember the first time in one of the fights, because I just assume if you punch someone enough, they're passed out, they're fine, whatever. It was when you do those environmental attacks, and some of them are so brutal. I'm like, well, okay, that guy's dead.
Yeah, that guy's dead. Yep, exactly. And
but it's tough being undercover, It's, what can
and
I
that's
do?
well for me. Like I was doing the environmental attacks during that fight with Ming, which is really near the beginning. So I was like, okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing, right? It's okay. And then I was like, cool, let's kill people.
But yeah, it did totally get to, like, it's so weird too, because like it's just, I don't know. It's like when I recommend this game, like even to you, where it was like $40 was it at the time on Steam, and I was like, oh, I don't know if it's worth $40, because it is so derivative and kind of doesn't have its big shining thing that it does better than anything else. It's hard for me to necessarily just say like, oh, it's great, but it is like the game that I slept for 4 hours and got up and kept playing, and like just when I still have the soundtrack on my MP3 player, and I'm like, man, some of this music
soundtrack
is so good.
Really good, but also according to the credit sequence, very, very long. Like, holy crap, there's a lot of music in that game.
What they ended up doing for most of it is it was like different radio station or different record labels ran the different radio stations, so they just did samplers or whatever of like artists they wanted to push. But like Ninja Tune Radio was my favorite.
Yeah,
that's so good.
I mean, I wasn't listening to the radio much. It took me a while to realize it's like at the end of the game I had like $500,000 because I didn't spend any money on anything.
Yeah,
right.
What besides cars and shit? What are you gonna buy?
Well, I bought 2 cars, right? And then I realized I could use cabs instead of just driving myself a lot of places, but you can't use a cab while you're in the middle of a mission, which is kind of shitty.
And that was one minor annoyance to me, but I accidentally pulled cab drivers out far too much.
Constantly for me, right? Like it was so nuts. Like I'd go grab, and I hit the button to hail the cab, and I'd jack the cab.
I think what seemed to be happening,
and
is
there'd
like
be a cab behind him, and I would try again, and I'd go and I'd jack the fucking cab. Go across the street. This happened to me, right? Yeah.
Well,
3 times in a row.
In my like experimenting, it seems like what happens is you have to, because you're supposed to hold its triangle on the PlayStation.
You have to stop moving.
Well, also it's like you have to hold for a set amount of time before the cab will activate. Yep. So if you're standing next to the door, which is the natural spot, you'll open the door. But if you stand just in front of the cab, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Which is just it's such a weird problem that I don't know how no one noticed.
It's what I call one of the usual plagues of open world games, right? Like where there's just there's so many different things to do with the interface based on context and placement. It's like the lock boxes. Opening the lock boxes, you have to be like in front of the lock box, or else.
And with those cabs in particular, like even that, when you're standing in front of the cab and you hold the button, he's still moving toward the door to jack the car. It's just that you have enough time for it to kick in. Like, it's just weird. Like, every time it felt a little weird to me. I'm like, don't do it. Okay, good. I got in.
Yeah, I mean, and why is there no mechanism to hail a cab?
Yeah, like in Grand Theft Auto, you could whistle and you could call them even on your phone, and that's
exactly,
all.
Yeah. Like, why?
Yeah. Although I mostly drove just because I liked the driving.
I like the driving too, but like eventually I just got to the point where it's like I have to finish this.
Right. Yeah, 30 hours in. That's deep. That's like let's wrap this up.
Exactly. Yeah. And
well, one thing too that I loved about it, because it was one of my biggest pet peeves with Grand Theft Auto 4, and Saints Row 2 did this also, but I think they fixed it in 3, is I loved the on-screen indicators in Sleeping Dogs of where to drive.
I liked them, yeah.
Because what they do in these other stupid games is in your little GPS
you're watching the mini-map all the time.
Yeah, so you're literally like not watching the game in this beautiful world, and it's like
I still couldn't quite get out of the habit of watching the mini-map, especially if I had like somewhere far away and complicated to get to, right?
I did look at it, but it was still flip-flop. Like I would glance at it, where in Grand Theft Auto 4, you only glance at the road, So it at least reversed what I focusing on more.
I like that balance much better, yeah. And I only went on like 2 or 3 treasure hunting sprees in it, right? Like where I would go, okay, I gotta get the shrines, get some shrines, get some health,
right,
and get them jade statues. I didn't care about the lock boxes by the time I was doing these these runs because I had more money than God at that point.
Yeah. See, that's what after I finished the story, that's what I did for the next 2 hours. I'm like, what did I not do? Well, I didn't do all the lockboxes, so I did that for a couple hours, and I was like, this is just pathetic. What am I doing? I just wanted to keep playing.
I know. Yeah. Like, I mean, I still have some races I could do, which
Yeah, see, I didn't like them. I didn't do very many races.
The races are not hard. But I like them enough, right? They're not. It's not great racing, but it's kind of fun driving, and it was nice to not have to do a race like 20 times to beat it, right? So
you know what? Actually, now that I think about like the combat, I think my big problem with the combat was I did all the fight clubs early in, and I didn't have enough moves to justify doing that yet. They were tough.
Yeah, I started the fight clubs, around hour 20 there. I only did the one eventually, and of course. Like I say, I would have cleaned house with them. I would have been able to clean house with them when I started doing them, because I just didn't even notice they were there, right? Until I had like 6 or 7 jade statues, and I was like, hey, there's a guy there I can talk to. What's he doing?
You know what's weird too with the story is I can't quite pinpoint in my own brain like how good was that story actually, because it's probably not. It's not great,
right? But it's very compelling. It's
like the fact that I gave a fuck.
It's a Hong Kong cinema soap opera, is what it was, right? In a sense.
And the fact that I cared is like amazing. So is that just that the video games are so bad?
They're immersive,
or was this actually kind of good?
No, this was pretty good. There were like the voice. The fact that everyone's speaking kind of a broken Hong Kong English masks a lot of deficiencies in the writing, if there were any, and the writing was pretty good.
That was cool too. Just like I liked driving on the other side of the road, and how they hired.
It took me a while to get used to that.
Right. This is a nice change though, and that all those people that did all the voices, like they hired actual Chinese and Cantonese people. So it's like what people would say is like some Mickey Rooney racist sounding caricature shit, but that they're like, but it isn't, because those are the people, so fuck you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's nice though. I like that. I like that they.
And I thought the lead guy did a really good job.
The lead guy had the best voice, I suppose. Although that made his voice made the certain clumsiness of the writing a little more clear sometimes, right?
Dude, there was one of the girlfriends on the dates. I like that too, though, where in Grand Theft Auto 4 and even San Andreas, any of the dating stuff was just such a laborious to-do of having to do what the girl liked and dress the right way and drive the right cars and go on many, many dates, and then you get some bonus. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, this one just was nice and easy.
Yeah, no date is ever more than once. You just do it, and again, it just makes you feel cool. You went on a date, and then that's it. But one of those people, I think her name was Amanda.
Yeah,
she was.
Emma Stone.
No, not Emma Stone then, because I'm going to say, because Emma Stone chick was fine. Whoever this
Vivian was Lucy Liu.
Was that? I don't know who it was, but whoever it was, one of them had terrible voice acting is what I'm getting at. Just awful.
Oh, okay. Probably Ilyana.
No, not the Russian
No, not
chick.
the Russian.
No, it was like two girls that you were hanging out with together.
2 girls. Okay, so it was, that would be Sandra.
She was a nightmare of awfulness. I'm like, is this someone's girlfriend? Like, who is this person? And she was just terrible. God, she was awful. But she was the only person I would like put a pin in of all the voices that I'm just like awful.
Oh man, Uncle Po had, that dude, had David Lopan, right? Yeah, man.
Did you hear any too of every time you leave your apartment, there's the mom talking to her daughter, and there's kind of an ongoing argument they're having about the boyfriend?
Yeah, I kind of wish that, this had been like the first such game I had ever encountered, because then I would have sat around, drinking in more of these details. I mean, I remember I ran over somebody, and then it's got that thing where the ambulance comes, and then you listen to them talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't, and there was a time where I would go and see what kind of things you could find that were like that, but, that's just a recipe for disappointment, really.
Yeah, generally.
But yeah, that was funny. It's like, oh, they're like, oh, he's not going to make it, that sort of thing. It's like...
Yeah, that was a cool game.
And I didn't get into any big fights with the cops during this movie or game.
That was, I guess, that started to bug me too. Is I like the arcadiness of it, and that you had that weird move where you could thrust your car at other cars to knock them off the road, which is totally silly but nice.
I love it.
And I liked how you could do that to the cops, and that was considered an acceptable way to shake the cops. But after a while, the cops are just a little too hard to shake. So so I would accidentally piss off a cop, and I'm just like, oh, now I gotta get the cop off me. I mean, again, this is because of playing it for dozens of hours, but that started to really wear me out.
I found, my experience with the cops was that I found them easier to shake than in any other open world game I'd played.
Well, they are, but it was still not easy enough.
Okay.
Like it hit a point where, like you were saying, where you just like, let's get this done. When I hit that point, anytime the cops were bugging me, because then it's like shake the cops before you can do whatever you're doing, and I'm like, I don't want to, leave me alone. And you're in some bank car or something for the mission that's too slow, and that wore me out.
Okay, yeah.
But only after a long time.
Like the chicken truck, that was pretty cool.
I don't remember.
There was a mission where you get into a chicken truck, and it's very slow.
So did you, because it took me a little while to sort this move out, but did you do much of the leaping from one car onto the roof of the other car?
Oh, the action hijack?
Yeah, I used to do that I got to the point where I did that just to change the radio station because it's just fun to do.
Oh, so you can do that even when it's not asking you to?
Yeah, apparently you just do it all the time.
See, I don't think I did anything that the game didn't ask me to do.
Right.
With the exception of one thing. They made the mistake of giving me, I'm sure they would consider it a mistake, but they made the mistake of giving me a luchador mask right near the beginning. I don't know whether you got it or not, but
no, I don't.
Yeah, man, I got a luchador mask right at the beginning, and a bunch of T-shirts and stuff, because it's like on Steam or something, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. And man, it was, like I say, it was just, as soon as I put that on, I was like, I couldn't take it off, because it just, I'm not gonna lie, that made until I really got invested in the story, that made it for me, right? And then after I had after the wedding, right, I wore the wedding pants, the white ones, right? And
I think I did too, just because they're like the bloody suit. I wore it for a while. Yeah. Remember my homie?
Yeah, and so I was wearing the white pants, no shirt, the luchador mask, and then once I had enough face to wear sunglasses, I did, and man, I was so it was great fun, especially going through, it gave the cutscenes an extra dimension, right?
That's one thing. Saints Row is good for that type of stuff. It's not as good of a game, but that is a great part of it, is how weird you can look.
But almost I really feel that the luchador style, it almost works. Like I could almost see some really crazy Hong Kong movie where there's this guy,
right,
and he's, that's how
like
much of how much of a badass he is, right? Is
what I wore once. I don't remember where I got it from, but the yellow Game of Death Bruce Lee outfit.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, once I got that, that's all I ever wore. But it was almost disturbing, because you remember like The Simpsons, like stupid sexy Flanders when he's got that skin tight. Yeah. It's like that. Like you're just so skin tight, but it looks so cool. And
that would have been good with the luchador mask as well. I mean, but I didn't want to stare at yellow like all game.
Right.
Yes. I preferred watching his weird pecs that don't move. But yeah, like just a remarkable feat of of game engineering and stuff, and it just kept it lots of fun. And it's tempting to, like, it says mission replay unlocked, but I never figured out how to replay a mission.
Yeah, I never did either. I think you would only be, was there like a timer, or maybe it's just so you could get more experience? Like,
yeah, what you would do is you'd go through the mission and get
run over less people.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that was another little thing, but it really did kind of annoy me, is that the when it would keep track of your various little activities, and one of them was the clean run, like how long you've been driving without hitting someone, that shouldn't come up until you're 20, 30 seconds deep.
It shouldn't come up until you're about ready to beat your previous record.
Right, or even if it was only 20 or 30 seconds, at least it would happen less often. But it was like 10 seconds of just not hitting someone.
I was such a shitty driver that the clean run did not bother me.
It came up constantly for me, because I think that's another reason.
Motorcycles a lot, which the clean run does not appear for.
Well, I don't know, for whatever reason, I guess because I was a cop and I'm sort of just got the role playing in my mind, like I didn't really hit that many people, and that's why early in the game I still felt like I hadn't killed anyone, because
I was trying not to kill people for the first half of the game while driving, and then I'm like, it's not, and then I learned it wasn't keeping track of it and wasn't going to,
Right.
I mean, it was keeping track of it per mission and stuff, but like, I learned that, Raymond, whoever, your police handler was not going to complain to you that you were killing a lot of innocent people, right? You're doing what has to be done.
Yeah, and I don't know how well it did. I don't know if there will be a sequel, but if there is, I'm there. I don't know. I'd be into that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, like I say, I want someone to vet it just because, what if it sucks? Sequels are never a guarantee.
Although with video games, they're generally better. It's the reverse
usually,
of movies.
Yeah, usually.
But yeah, just the fact too that it was just fun. Like just that it didn't want to get in the way of your fun. It was so almost rare with video games.
One thing is like on my last treasure hunt, of course. Yeah, my 2 treasure hunts, I went, and of course I was going to these places and hunting down shrines and statues that I could not. Sometimes they were in a place that I couldn't get into, and it's like, that's going to happen during a mission, right?
I don't like when they do that.
I don't like when they do that either.
There was this one in particular, like I tried forever to get in, and I don't even know if I ever got it, because I just couldn't figure out how to get to it.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually, I ended up getting all 12, and at the end you get a move that you can actually use during the fight with Big Smile Lee at the end that makes it, like, very easy, actually. So it's like, sweet.
I think in particular I'm thinking of those shrines that you bow to.
Yeah, those fucking shrines.
Yeah, like there was one of them, like I just wish on the map it would just be grayed out or something. Like just don't worry about this because you can't get into this place right now.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I tried, like every time I would drive through that part of town, I'm like, why haven't I got that yet? Let's try to get in there again. And it's because it was in a building that I couldn't get into till a mission, and it's just...
Yeah, and then during the mission you don't get it because you're gunning people down, right? Yeah. That's one thing, like, I do think, I do think it handled it pretty well with the Big Smile Lee thing, although they could have done to introduce him a little early and a little earlier and a little more gradually.
Yeah.
Right? Because you only see him, like, after the wedding, right? That's the first time you see him is after the wedding, I think. When the red poles are gathered, at Uncle Poe's bedside there.
Yeah, like the whole plot, it's a little bit of a blur to me, but I just remember, as it was going, each individual link in the chain, I was like, cool.
Oh yeah, no, it's super cool, right? Because and part of the,
I was surprised when Winston bit it so early in, but then I'm like, well, I guess I should have seen that coming because the previous mission was such a boring, slow mission of helping his fucking girlfriend get ready for a wedding. How did I not know he was dead?
Well, that's the thing. As soon as a wedding was mentioned, I was like,
he's dead.
I was like, no, I was like, everybody's dead. Like and I was almost
I've lived.
Yeah. I was like, everyone's right, and I didn't care. I did not ever care whether Jackie lived or died.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I found that was a little bit.
That was the only overwrought bit.
Yeah, like when you find his body just hanging from a meat hook or whatever, I was like, that's a little much for this game.
Yeah.
I guess they're trying to ramp it up at the end, but
yeah, no, because I could not get emotionally invested in I was more emotionally invested in Uncle Poe, than in Jackie.
Well, that's where I start to think, like, maybe this story was a little better than I'm really giving it credit for.
It's not bad. Like, I think
because I hate stories that are earnest. It's like, put in a joke or go fuck yourself. But this one was pretty serious the whole way through, and it didn't bug me. And that's tougher, I think, to do than I give it credit for.
It's hard for the earnestness in a story to bug you when you're wearing a luchador mask.
Right.
It looked like a Power Ranger at the end. It was. That's another option. Motorcycle helmet. Yeah, you should always.
Yeah, see, that's one thing. Like, Saints Row is huge with this type of stuff. Like, the amount of character customization is incredible, and it's super hilarious, and that's like the greatest thing. But the actual game just doesn't hold together like Sleeping Dogs does.
Yeah, no, there's this awesome move you get at the end, which I only ever successfully used against Big Smile Lee, because you get the last Jade statue in the penultimate mission. What is the move? I don't know if I even got that. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, if you didn't get all the statues, you couldn't have, right? So it's one where you elbow. It's like you grab, and you hit the trigger and grab, and when you grab, you just bash him with your elbows, and then he kneels down, and then you get the beat on his head, and then kick him. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah, and the one before that, of course, is a defensive one where the defensive counter where you go. It's called a dim mac, and you just dodge, and then you just do a Feng Li, 100-hand slap on the dude. Well, 25 hand slap, right? But, yeah.
That is one thing I really got to play that Batman game because apparently the combat in Sleeping Dogs is based on the Batman Arkham Asylum model. Except-
that's interesting.
And apparently the Batman version of it is advanced a little more. So like, you know how people would flash red when you could counter them?
Yeah.
In Batman you can turn that off, but you can tell just by watching what people are doing when is the time to counter. And
Eventually, I got to the point where not so much with the flashing red for countering, but with all the other ones, like with the grappling guys, I was, I could tell, I could kind of tell what to press. I do it kind of instinctively, what to counter. Because with the grappling guys, it's like you hit, you can hit B or Y, Xbox controller. So yeah. Circle or triangle.
oh, that's something too. Since you played it on PC, you got the up-resed version.
Oh yeah, it's a very nice looking game.
It was
right?
still okay looking on PlayStation, but yeah, I mean, I heard it's much nicer on PC.
It's beautiful, right? Like
I like that city too.
Wei
It's just
Shen's
cool.
skin just glistens when it's when it's raining.
Yeah, and I really like just the vibe of that city. It just looked cool. It felt cool.
And then, like I say, just the wonderful absurdity of an open world game where I swam to the funeral, right? Like, because I couldn't dock a fucking boat or something. I couldn't dock the boat, so I just got out and swam. I was wet, during the funeral.
And that's one thing too. Is like, I think the trick, the special spice of these open world games is so hard to do, but is that each individual piece is fun. Like if you're driving along and you just see a group of ne'er-do-wells guarding a lockbox, I'm like, I'll get out and beat them up because why not? It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But it did get kind of weird at the point of when you're clearing out drug dens, and some of them are like you literally need to get a boat and go find a weird underground like little canal and go in and then beat up a room full of criminals. I just wonder, like, when you write up your report, they're like, you did that by yourself? And you just went and did that? You're lucky to be alive. That's crazy. And you're like, I had time. I was just...
I'm son on me, motherfucker.
Yeah. What was the other gang? There was another
18K.
gang. Yeah, I just like that name. It's just cool.
It is good, yeah.
Like, I never really could keep track of all the politics, but it was just cool.
I like the politics a lot, right?
And when the people are just yelling about this or that, the 18K, they're coming to get you. Like, all right, well, let's deal with it then.
I like how Jackie says, I just once I'd like to fight someone outside my own triad.
I love too, like, on the way to that final mission, that they tailor it just right where it plays, just you get in the car and it plays a specific song and it runs all the dialogue from throughout the game. Beautiful. It's so good.
It's very nice. Yeah, it's very nice.
And that's, I guess, where video games can get away with some stuff where in a TV show or a movie that might be a little
annoying,
heavy-handed or just hammy, but in a game it's fucking cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be kind of cool to do like the Hong Kong gangster Game of Thrones kind of show. That could be pretty cool. Or like Sopranos or whatever. But well, not Sopranos. I want more action. But
He died. Did you hear?
yeah, shit.
It's like 51 or 2. That sucks.
It's not.
He's 52 because Craig was gonna kill himself at 51. So he got 1 year more than Craig, but yeah.
Okay.
It was an old Final Countdown thing.
Right. Okay.
I don't know why he picked that age. He just is like, I don't want to.
Right.
That's the time to go.
51. Yeah. Well, I always thought, at any given point, I think Logan's Run has the right idea. Except it's always, I want it to be 10 years older than I am now. Right. It's like when I was 20, I thought that's about the right idea. When I was 30, I was like, well, let's push it up to 40.
40's the new 30.
Yeah, and so forth. Like, I remember when I was, when I was a kid, it was 18 to 25 was like your demographic of people who spend money irresponsibly, right? Which is what the marketers want to go for. And then as I got older, that kept expanding, right? And now it's like 18 to 35. But I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years they're gonna put that. We're looking for the lucrative 18 to 40 bracket, right? Like I'm never escaping the. We've hit the singularity here, folks.
Right. Just until we die. We're the
irresponsible generation.
So I guess we should wrap up the Sleeping Dogs. I would like to say one thing.
else?
One thing that's nice about that is You remember Justin from our hometown, the
Yes,
young
yes.
Justin who used to hang out at the comic store all the time. He saw me talking about it on Twitter, and if you're a PlayStation Plus member, they give you a free game every month, and it was one of the free games. So he's like, "Oh, it's free. I'll just try it." And I kept seeing him on Twitter, like, "Pretty good game, still playing it."
Yeah, yeah.
And I was just glad to spread the joy. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming out in September, and I mean. It's again where I don't know why I can't just put my full backing behind Sleeping Dogs. Like maybe when Grand Theft Auto 5 comes out, arguments will be made how it's better, but it won't be better. Like it won't be more fun. There's no way it'll be more
For me,
fun.
fun is like fucking everything, right? Like fun, and fun has to come from that, like, that kind of just right level of challenge, right? And one thing I liked is that, there were people, I said, oh, I don't go much for the loyalty, but I liked how there were people on my side in the gunfights,
Right.
who, it's like, since if I was incompetent, well, they would take stuff out. I just wouldn't get as many points, right? And I liked that aspect of it, right?
And I think that is part of it, yeah, of the addictive flow, is that it's kind of easy. And it's not so easy that you never lose. I mean, I definitely failed some shit.
Yeah, like, it's like you don't lose, but yeah, you can definitely fail. But yeah, like but you just don't feel like, you don't feel like the world's on your shoulders until it is.
Right.
Right? And that's,
And definitely, like, the point of a game like that is to keep flowing.
keep flowing, yeah. And man, is it fucking good at it. Like, either that or I have a serious problem. Right? Like, you don't remember I started playing Bit Trip Runner and I was like, I need to stop. Right? I didn't do that. Well, I knew that there was a good end to, to Sleeping Dogs. I mean, and of course, Sleeping Dogs is not as distinctly repetitive to keep failing at it, right? So,
there's definitely something about Sleeping Dogs, because in the other games I've played since that, I guess maybe the closest is like Fallout 3. I'd really had a hard time stopping, and that's the only one I can think of. Like,
yeah. Well, it's like I said, the next time on Game of Thrones thing works really well on me. It's why I just can't stop watching TV shows. If they don't have those little next times at the end, I can usually stop, actually. It's kind of sad, right? Like, they just work so well on me. I want to know.
I was trying to find that we were talking about the other day that, like, those, if you just string together all the previously ons for a show, you can watch it and fast forward, but those are really hard to find. I couldn't find very many. I was hoping to find all the Downton Abbey ones, but like someone should be compiling
that would be
these.
wild, right? The Downton Abbey ones would be pretty wild.
Did you see in The Onion, it's like, in season 4 of Downton Abbey, will the wizards finally use their powers?
Well, Downton Abbey is like Game of Thrones, except the stakes are lower.
All right,
Yeah, so that's Sleeping Dogs, I guess. Yeah, because I'm trying to think whether I have anything else salient to say about it. And,
So any of my elite listenership, this show definitely gets the least listeners of all my endeavors, but it's got some people. So if this will be Sleeping Dogs Revisited, amongst all the other times I brought it up in between. So, I mean, if you haven't played Sleeping Dogs, you could do worse, I guess.
Yeah, you could definitely do worse, because, like, I hate open world games, and I really
I was about to say, if you like Grand Theft Auto. If not, don't. But
It's like,
Even if you don't.
Yeah, no, I hate open world games because I end up, dying, and I don't get to find out how the stupid story goes, right? Because I try to get invested in, in that sort of thing, but they stopped me, What was the name? I can't even remember the name of the guy in San Andreas, but I remember CJ, right? That's why I
Carl
couldn't
something.
remember, right? Because it's just 2 letters. But yeah, so him, like, I got quite invested in the initial, like, Los Angeles part, and but
it's so far flung.
then it goes crazy, right? Like, but with the Los Angeles part, I feel like Sleeping Dogs was kind of like, it was a lot like the Los Angeles part of San Andreas, in the sense that it had a story with a good flow that kept going, and you'd go. And in Sleeping Dogs, you don't have to buy your houses yourself,
Right.
And
it really is a pretty good length. I mean, 30 hours is nothing to sneeze at for a video game, but it's also not
in the modern age, no.
And like, I'm sure I played San Andreas for probably 60 and never finished it.
Yeah,
So-
I played San Andreas for 50.
Right.
Right, and I saw that statistic somewhere, and I was like, I am stopping. stopping. You know,
Yeah, and it really does bring the fun back to this shit because like
so fun. Like I
I forgot how much Grand Theft Auto 4 wasn't fun until I got those DLCs. And you remember like Ballad of Gay Tony, like it looks so fun.
Yeah, it does look fun.
You watch the trailer and you're like, this looks so fun, but it's
It
just
was not
Grand Theft
fun.
Auto 4.
No, Grand Theft. Yeah, Ballad of Gay Tony was.
It's the most fun one, but it's not good enough.
It just wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't fun enough for me to, for me to even get through one mission. I don't think I did. I was like, no. I was like, this is Grand Theft Auto. I hate it.
That's my one hope with Grand Theft Auto 5 is I always forget this one, but in the middle they put out Red Dead Redemption. And if you ever do want to lose another fucking 30 hours of your life, that game is really good.
Oh, Red Dead Redemption.
The Old West game, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing. Like it's not very hard. It's open world. You just keep moving, you keep flowing, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So that one is good, but I still don't have faith in Grand Theft Auto 5. I don't know.
Ooh. And then there's the whole thing where it's like, this game proves that I can identify with brown people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's more of a Final Countdown statement, but
like Asians in particular. Like, do they count as brown? Or is there?
well, I
are there-
just meant non-white.
Right.
Right. They're brown enough.
I guess is it? Yeah. What is it more offensive to call them brown or yellow? What's the worst?
I don't know. I guess yellow, bro.
But I guess yeah. Like deep down, we all have the same gang-related problems. Yeah. No, it was. And I did. Yeah. Just the whole setting of just different enough was nice. And it just at the radio station, like Cantonese weird rap songs. would
Oh
come
yeah,
on.
that stuff was very cool. Like it's a nice, I just I don't know what I want. I kind of do want more, but I don't want more just for the sake of more, right? Because I do feel that they exhausted their gameplay options that they did have, right?
Right.
But they didn't, or they exhausted them, but they didn't like over exhaust them, right? I wasn't around 24 hours in, I think.
That's just a crazy statement. Because like people complain like, oh, Uncharted 3 was only 8 hours. I don't know if that's worth $60.
Yeah. So 24 hours in, I checked because I was, as I was getting scared. I was like, how much of this is left, right? And there was, I looked at an FAQ, not to find out anything, but just to get a rough idea of like how much more game there was. And I'll do that quite often. And sometimes, like in a thing like the Grand Theft Auto game, I did that and I regretted it because I was like, whoa, there's way too much game left here.
That happened to me in Grand Theft Auto 4 because I had to restart it because I was playing it in New York, and then when I brought it home I didn't have my save game, and I realized I was only halfway in, and I'm like, I'm not doing all that again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, it turns out I was like 76% of the way through, which kind of matches up with the amount of time that it was. And it's like,
something too, I think the difference where I would just keep on going, and if I ever get my hands on these DLC, I'll play the shit out of them, and but I don't have a job. And I think this must be what happens to WoW people, right? It's like they get in this kind of feeling, in this groove where they just would keep going and they don't have to stop. It's just sick and awful, and it just keeps going forever.
And then they have that, they have that whole social surrogacy aspect where it's like, well, I have to get together, and I have to get together. I have to social. I have to get people together in order to,
Yeah, that's
beat
like,
up the bosses, and it's like,
what's the drug from RoboCop 2? Crank or something? Nuke? Yeah, it's like, it's extra addictive.
but yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, World of Warcraft is like, I don't know. I never, it's a good thing that doesn't quite yank my chain, right?
Yeah, I never even tried, and I don't want to. I mean, I don't think I'd like it anyway because it's fantasy shit. But if they made one that wasn't fantasy, I'd be. If they made Sleeping Dogs MMO, I'm like, oh no, oh
man.
no.
That one, I would try that. That would be good.
I guess you know what else I liked about it? I liked that because it was
That would
Hong
be
Kong.
really good. I'd really like a Sleeping Dogs MMO.
And since it was Hong Kong and the triads and stuff, I liked that it was kind of more contained in a specific genre or a specific vibe, because Grand Theft Auto always moves through, like I specifically remember with 4, Before I got burned out on it, before I realized it was bad, I was like, all right, so first you got your Eastern European friends, and that was kind of cool. And you start hanging out with these Irish kids, and that was pretty cool. And then once you got to the Mafia, I'm just like, you're just running me through everyone now, and I'm so sick of the Mafia, and Sopranos can go fuck itself, and I think The Godfather's not that great, and now you're making me do this again. Like, it's just the same old shit. I kind of liked that Sleeping Dogs was like, we're dealing with this, and we're sticking with it.
Yeah, I like that too. Like if the whole game of San Andreas had just been in Los Angeles.
Yeah, because then they pull you back at the end. I watched the ending of San Andreas one time just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
They bring it right back to Orange Grove or whatever your neighborhood
is.
And it's like, I literally had a jetpack, and now you want me to care about this again?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a nice thing about Sleeping Dogs is that you, even though you rise up the ranks, you never lose your ability. Your character never loses the ability to relate to what was going on, and if anything, it gets even, it's even stronger.
And you never quite turn. Like, I was definitely thinking, like, am I just going to become a criminal? Because it's pretty fun. Yeah. But you stick with the cops thing ultimately.
Yeah, it's like, well, Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that going into Sleeping Dogs, because it's like, they have to happen. It's like the cops have to double cross you, your friends have to double cross you, so many people have to double cross you in there. It's just a question of which one is going to be the one, right? And that in and of itself was kind of interesting, because it's like I felt like I had there's nothing that inspires continuation like a little gap in your knowledge that is going to be filled.
I think with video games in particular too, it's a very good place to not reinvent the wheel. Like, stick with the kind of stuff that works.
Stick with what works, because
just do it somewhat carefully, and then you're gold. Like The Last of Us, my last episode I just put out is about it, and it's just a zombie story, but they did it good. This one's just John Woo movie, but they did it good. And whereas like fucking Bioshock Infinite that I can't stop complaining about, but it was a sliders world-spanning alternate 1920 flying city. It's nonsense. It was way too dumb.
Yeah, I mean, at least the first Bioshock had, kind of a coherent...
Yeah, that one was almost a miracle that it came together, because that was fucking crazy too. But he got, what's the term? Hubris?
Yes, hubris. Hubris, an insult to the gods.
And that's the other thing, I guess, because video games are such a ghetto, like, that's where he got so applauded for pulling something off with the Bioshock 1 thing that then he went crazy.
It's what they call in software development second system syndrome. You have to make the second one better, right, in every possible way, and you just end up just adding more feathers and sparkles and to your stripper outfit.
Right.
Did I not start the stripper metaphor properly? No, I didn't. But we ended up there.
All right, so Sleeping Dogs. Now let's say his famous catchphrase that he always says throughout the game. I was trying to think of a pork bun analogy for arresting your friends. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I really went off the deep end of my brain on that one. I'm like,
I only got 4 hours of sleep, so I'm not in a position to do improv right now.
But yeah, nor am I. Yeah, I think we got that covered. I guess one last little thing.
Yeah.
Also, because of my intense displeasure with repetitive, horrible sounds that I don't like, this game did pretty well with that. Like, occasionally,
I love the sound in it.
I got a little tired of the guy going like, "You need a hot pork bun?" That's why I was thinking about that. He just keeps yelling. But that's the other thing, is the radio was so good, I wanted to hear it, so I didn't turn off the sound.
Oh, yeah, lots of fun. Yeah, driving around was lots of fun, and
even Red Dead, I turned off the sound. Like, in no game do I play that long and not turn off the sound. So thumbs up, Sleeping Dogs.
And speaking of, what was it? Yeah, like you're asking, what's the appeal of Elizabeth? Of course, on your Twitter there, and I responded. I was like, when I was a suckier person, I would have thought she was awesome.
Yeah, that's how I really do feel like people that love Bioshock Infinite are kind of bad people. It's such a pile of crap. It's so disappointing. But that's where, again, on the other hand, like, Bioshock Infinite is aspiring for all this fancy shit, and did do some stuff no other game did. So it seems like that's where I feel like so lowbrow that I'm just like, fuck that game, Sleeping Dogs is way better. But fuck that game, Sleeping Dogs is way better.
It's, when you're dealing with the creative ego, right? You know, and someone aspires. Do you want them to keep trying to? You know, someone's got to push the envelope, and that, you know, if they push all the envelopes at once, that's kind of a mistake from a, you know, right, from a, or it can be, right?
Well, I feel like I'm kind of saying like Detroit Rock City is a better movie than Schindler's List, but it is. What do you want to watch right now? Be honest, you know.
That is, that's a debatable point of view. I can't remember whether I've seen Detroit Rock City.
It's real good, man. It's better than Schindler's List. All right, let's wrap this up. KeithCourage.com. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining me, Bradley.
Hey, that was great. I've wanted to do one of these for a while, and we have something to actually talk about.
And if we start our own Chinese gang in Toronto, we'll call it the Sleeping Dogs, and we'll have to do a little cosmetic surgery to our eyes, I assume. But do you want to do this right or do you want to do it wrong?
I want to do it wrong.
Fair enough. Would you kind read?